Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And in the previous video, we went over how to sign up for Sovereign's Meta Tournament number 4, as well as the ban list and the changes. And in this video, I did want to go over a tier list for what I think are the best decks of the format, and basically just a general idea of what I think is going to probably win, like has the most likely chances of topping in the next tournament. So we're going to go over everything. First of all, we're going to start off with ABC. So on the previous list, unauthorized reactivation went from 1 to 2, and obviously Union Hanger is limited, as well as the Buster Dragon. So I think that this has a decent chance, but I'm still going to go ahead and put it in the rogue category. And the reason for this is because you have basically 5 ways to do your combo, which are set rotation, terraforming, Union Hanger, and the 2 copies of unauthorized reactivation. I guess technically Metaverse is also a way, but I mean, we're talking about like turn 1, right? So I don't think that that's going to be enough for ABC to have a good lasting chance in this format. I think that it is going to be like decent. Obviously, you can still play stuff like the gadgets, like Silver and Gold Gadget, and they'll float into new cards, which are really nice, as well as Platinum Gadget's really nice to get that extra extender on the field, and it also floats as well. A, B, and C all float as well, but there's not really a whole lot that you can do with it, right? So, I mean, technically over 4 turns, B turns into a Buster Dragon, since B searches for A searches, or A adds B back from grave, and then B adds for C when it's sent to grave, and then you have all 3 pieces, and then you can make Buster. So obviously B turns into Buster over the course of like 4 turns, but I still don't think it's going to be enough, so I'm going to go ahead and put it into Rogue. Next, we have Water, or Mermail, Diva, Deep Sea, Atlantean, etc. So Mulan's 2-0, which means this deck doesn't have a good hand loop procedure. So I think that we're going to also go ahead and put this in Rogue, but I'm going to put it above ABC, since I think that you can still end on really cool cards a lot more consistently than ABC, being like Bahamut Shark and their rank 7 or 8 guy. I can't remember his name, but I think you can still end on him. So I think that that is a reason why we're going to go ahead and put this in the Rogue category. Next, we're going to go ahead and go into Invoke and Invoke variants. So I think that this is actually really cool, because you can still do some 1-card plays with Alistair, right? You can still Alistair, make it into an Almirage, and then you can infuse for Purgatrio. Also, you can make Secure Gardener for a free monster on field, but that's kind of besides the point. You can still make Purgatrio off of just 1 Alistair, which is still really nice. Makaba is banned, so there's obviously no negation you can make, but after turn 2, you can start turning your Purgatrio into Agoides, and with the Goides, you can actually just pop cards pretty much. And I think that's actually good enough for me to put Invoked into tier 2, since I think that it is a very good strategy, even just by itself. Just being able to get, a free negate, free pop, piercing, all that sorts of stuff. Next, we have Zombies. So Billard Rock is a really cool card, as well as Zombie World, right? Those are like insane because Billard Rock is basically like a negate and a banish. I think they're 2 separate effects, if I believe, 2 separate parts. Like it has the same activation requirement, but it's really cool, and you can bring this back every turn. And Zombie World is a floodgate, kind of like quote floodgate, because it turns everything into zombies, and your opponent can tribute summon, or I guess neither player can tribute summon except for zombies. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this actually into tier 1, because I think that this actually has a really good chance, this format. Doom King Billard Rock can come back every single turn as long as there's a field spell on field. So I think that's a good enough reason for me to put this into tier 1. So moving on, we have Boxia, or Yangzing. And I think that Yangzing is okay, but I'm actually just going to go ahead and plop this into Rogue. I think it's not going to be as good as ABC or Water. It's just going to be okay, I think. But yeah, I guess there's not really a whole lot to say about that. Moving on into Blue Eyes, I think that Blue Eyes is a really cool rank 8 strategy, and especially because I haven't hit the rank 8 guy, Draglubion, and that can basically, Draglumion essentially is another form of Utopia Double, which can end games pretty quickly. And you can also negate stuff, and the Galaxy package is pretty insane. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and put this at tier 2, in fact, at the top of tier 2, because I think it is a little bit better than Invoked. Moving on into Trickstar as a pure strategy, I don't think this really can do a whole lot. I mean, obviously you can combine it with other stuff. I did play this at some point, and I got 6 with the Chaos Trickstar Invoked. I think it could be cool to play this with set rotation, so I'm going to go ahead and plop it. Honestly, I'm going to plop it in Rogue, but at the top of Rogue, because I did play it at one point in SNMT4, and I did get 6th place, which is about right in the middle. And I might have just got a little bit lucky, so I'm going to go ahead and plop it in Rogue right in the middle. Shadal. So Shadal Fusion went to 1 as well as Construct, so that's going to be a major hit for the deck for the grind potential at least, but you can still search Shadal Fusion with Extra Foolish Burial, searching by sending App Cologne to the grave and then using App Cologne to send or add Shadal Fusion and then discard a card, and then you can gain your advantage back, obviously, if you send a Wendy or a Squamata or a Beast or a Falco, all of that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and plop this in tier 2, because obviously if Shadal Fusion and Construct were at 3, I'd put this in tier 1, no doubt. But I think that is just going to be okay with those cards being at 1. I think that Invoked decks are probably going to be better since it's a 1-card strategy, whereas Shadal, you kind of have to put your entire deck into it. You can do a lot of stuff with the Invoked engine because you can combine multiple strategies. I'm going to go ahead and go into Crusadia next, because Crusadia OTK is still like a decent option, but I'm going to go ahead and also put this in tier 2. I'm going to put it actually right behind Shadal, because I don't think that the Shadal deck, like, I definitely think that the Shadal would have a better matchup against it than a lot of these other decks as well. Like, I think that all of these decks could probably beat the Crusadia deck, but I think the Crusadia deck could probably beat all of these. But yeah, moving into Dark Magician. So I think Dark Magician is a little bit interesting here, because it got what? I can't remember what it got in the first SNMT. I want to say 3rd, and then I want to say it got 3rd again in SNMT2, but in the last one, it didn't do so well. And it is getting new support, so I will think that that is going to at least do something to the deck. Maybe it's going to be worth trying out, and I think I'm going to go ahead and put this right. I'm probably going to go ahead and put it right behind Blue Eyes. Just because Blue Eyes is a dedicated rank 8 strategy, and I think that Dark Magician can be a little bit better than that. Or better than at least the ones behind it. So we're going to go ahead and put it right there. Next, for Galaxy, I think that this is the most fair and balanced combo deck of the format. When I was playing against it, actually, it was really cool to see the deck do a lot of stuff. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put this in tier 1, because I think that this, as a combo deck, is actually really solid. But yeah, next, Hungry Burger. Obviously, he gets his own category because he does. Magispector. So Ties of the Brethren went to 1, as well as Icebell went to 1, to 2. But I still think the deck is pretty interesting, being able to put up multiple negates through just the engine by itself. I think that it could be really hard to play through, so I'm actually going to go ahead and put this at the top of tier 2, because I still think that the Magispector cards are really good on their own. Just being able to, you can just Pendulum Summon, and you have free negates and stuff. And I think that like Lightning Chidori and Totem Bird are insane cards. With Pot of Extravagance going to 1, I think that will definitely hurt the deck, but I think that it is going to be okay. Next, we have True Draco. Obviously, without the Floodgates, this is going to be a terrible deck. I'm going to go ahead and put this at the bottom of Rogue, because I don't think that it is going to be very good at all. Moving on into Gren Maju. Um, so Eater of Millions is probably the only like reliable banish card that you have because you can still play Extravagance and Desires, but only one copy of each. And there isn't really a whole lot of other banish cards that you can play. Maybe like Paleodynamistus, but that banishes your opponent's cards, which Grand Magi doesn't gain attack for. So it's like kind of iffy on this deck. I'm gonna go ahead and plop it in Rogue. I honestly think that it's gonna be probably just a little bit better than like True Draco, but a little bit worse than like Yang Zing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put it right there. I think that's a pretty comfortable position for it. Next, we have dinosaurs. I know I picked like a weird image for it, but I mean, Oviraptor's at 1, Archosaur's at 1, and Conductor's banned. So I think like the best way to play this deck is with like Lost World. I haven't really seen any variants in the tournament yet, but I think that Lost World is still a really solid card. I think that this could actually sit really nicely in the Rogue section, probably about right here, just right between Mermail and right before Trickstar. I think that's probably a pretty good position for it. Next, we have Mech Knights as a pure strategy. I think this could be really neat. Obviously, you can combine this with the Invoke strategy. Even though Macabre isn't a card anymore, I still think it could be really cool since, you know, you could just turn your normal summon to Almirage, set a card, say your Invocation, and you have a 1 card Mech Knight column. So I think that's actually kind of neat. I feel like that could be really cool as Mech Knights, just as a strategy by itself. Purple is at 1, which is kind of the main issue of this deck. So I am going to go ahead and put this in Rogue, and I'm going to put it behind Grand Maju. I don't think it's going to be that good, but I think if purple went to 2 or 3, I think this deck would be tier 2 or tier 1 hands down. Just because like purple is such an insane card. So especially because you can make Cyframe Lambda. You could even do that with just the Invoked engine, right? Just think about this, right? So Alistair summons, searches Invocation, make Almirage, set the Invocation, then you can special purple, then you can you can flip your Invocation, summon Purgatrio. Actually, that doesn't really work as much as I thought it would, but I thought you could make a Link too, and then which would be your Lambda, and then you could just turn that into it. But I guess that doesn't really work as well as I thought it did. But it's so close to being broken, is basically what I'm saying. Anyways, Melodious. This is a really cool deck because Eva is a card which can search you like multiple negates. But I'm still gonna go ahead and pop this in Rogue. I think that like when it's built right, this deck can definitely be a very, very strong contender. But I think that it is not going to be very strong. In fact, I'm probably just gonna put it at the bottom of Rogue. I think that it has really cool cards in the forms of First Movement Solo and their fusion card, which I can't remember the name of. Ostinato. I think those are really cool cards, but unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna be enough. Next, we have Metal Foes. So Metal Foes is really cool as well, but I'm going to go ahead and probably put this in Rogue as well. I think I'm going to fit it probably above Dinosaurs. In fact, I think it's probably going to go to the top of Rogue, maybe, because I think that if I can fit it in there. See if I can just switch tricks. There we go. I think that it's actually going to be really cool as a rogue option because I think Mithrilium being able to like basically get rid of threats is really nice, and you can also sit on like a pseudo negate of your whatever the fusion level 1's name is. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think that could be really cool, so we're gonna go ahead and put that in the rogue category. Next, we have Tenyi. So Tenyi is a very interesting deck, but it's very reliant on having no normal monsters. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the same category as Yangzing, and I think it's going to be probably just a little bit better than Yangzing, so I'm going to go ahead and comfortably put it right there. Next, we have Neos. So this was played in the previous tournament, and I don't think it did very well at all. Neos Fusion, though, is a really cool card, and just because Neos Fusion exists, I think I'm actually going to put this in Rogue, but I think I'm going to put it a little bit higher than I expected at first. I think I'm going to go ahead and put it maybe just right before ABC. I think that's maybe a really good spot for it, actually. I think that it's a really cool deck with Neos Fusion. Neos Fusion is a really crazy card, so I think that that's a really good spot for it. Odd Eyes. So Odd Eyes, I think, has the potential to actually be broken, because Spiral Frame Strike is a crazy search card for the deck, as well as you have other search cards in the forms of Duelist Alliance. You have Terraforming into Skyris, which can search your entire deck as well. So I think you can comfortably at least end on one negate per turn, because you can make Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon in the extra monster zone, and then you can turn that into Gravity Controller and then use Absolute to give you Vortex. So that's at least one negate that you can get comfortably every single turn. Odd Eyes, the Arc Pendulum is insane, and we had new support from this deck. So I think this deck has actually insane potential. I am going to actually put this at the top of tier 2, which seems very weird, but I think that this deck could be insane, given the right pilot of the deck and the right build of the deck. I definitely think that this deck could potentially even make it to tier 1 strategy, because we do have also the new level 12 guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but it came in Rise of the Duelist. So I think that like tier 2, in fact, I'm actually going to go ahead and put it into tier 1. I think that it could be really insane, this format. So yeah. Next one we have is Plunder Patrol. So Plunder Patrol is very, very skillful, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the deck. If you can pilot this deck very well, I think this deck could easily be tier 1. In fact, I'm going to put it in tier 1. And I think I'm going to actually fit it, just because of the previous tournament. I'm going to put it right before Galaxy, because Galaxy did a little bit better in the last tournament. So I think that that is a solid spot for it. Next, we have Sky Striker. So I think that this is really interesting. Obviously, Engage is banned, Multi-Roll is banned, Widow Anchor's to 1, and Kagaria's to 1. But we still have Ray and Rose. So I think that we still have like the aces, like the normal summons, which could actually carry this deck fairly decently, because you can still grind with it pretty hard. And Afterburners and the other one, Jamming Waves, are pretty good removal cards. So honestly, I think that this deck could be pretty decent. I'm still going to go ahead and put it in their rogue section, but I think that you could tech this out pretty interestingly, and I think that you could actually maybe have a fighting chance against a lot of these decks. In fact, I don't know like exactly the exact where to place it, but I'm going to go ahead and put it right after Water and right before Lost World Dinos, because I think it could definitely be something really cool. Next, we have Rika. So Rika just got Snowdrop to 3 and Glamour to 3, which were the hits from the previous list. And I'm going to go ahead and plop this in tier 1. I think it's going to go right before Odd Eyes, though. I think that it can obviously has pretty insane recovery in the forms of Petal, being able to just come back every single turn. But I don't think that it is quite good enough to compete against the rest of the field in the tier 1 category. So I think that putting it right there is going to be fine. Next, we have Rockets, or Dragon Link, I guess, because we still have Guard Dragon. Is it Pitsy? No. Yeah, Pitsy. Yeah, it is Pitsy, the one that summons from Grave or Banished, which I guess is like okay. But you could play this as a pure strategy, even though Striker Dragon's banned, LP's banned. Chaos Space is now to 2, so I think this could be really nice to like try. It'll be probably like okay. You can still possibly end on like Savage Spheres, Harbinger, and Crystal Wing, I think is possible as well. That's a couple negates. I'm going to go ahead and plop this at the top of tier 2, because I think you can also make Borreload Furious Dragon, which I think is like a pretty underrated fusion monster, actually. Next, we have Trap Tricks. So I think Trap Tricks is actually a pretty solid deck moving into this next format. And we're going to go ahead and pop this in tier 2. I think that honestly, it's going to go right after Blue Eyes, right before Magispector. Even though it did beat me in the feature match that I was against, there was a slight ruling thing that I definitely should have caught, and I probably would have won the game. And I think that he had a severe amount of luck drawing two cards that perfectly ended the game in his favor. So I think that that is a solid spot for him in tier 2. I think he just got really extremely lucky, which, I mean, totally happens. It's not, he won fair and square, to be fair, but I think it was a little bit of luck. Next, we have Hero. So Stratus is back at 2, which I definitely think was not the problem card in the format. So I think that Sunrise, or like Sunrise Turbo, in fact, they weren't even playing Bane, which is something really interesting. So I think I'm going to actually go ahead and pop this in tier 1. And for the sole fact that they weren't playing Bane, I'm probably just going to put it at the end of tier 1, because like Teardrop can out this, and I think the Odd Eyes deck can probably out their board for the most part also. But I think that it is like a very good set of tier 1 strategies that could compete against each other. I think that Sunrise is an insane card, and I think Bane's an insane card. So I think that that is a solid spot for it as well. Next, we have Paleo Frog, or just frogs in general. Now, I am probably one of the better players that know this deck, I guess. And I think that honestly, everything in the tier or the rogue category, it has an insane matchup against. There's a lot of stuff that like you can just think of right here, like Grenmaju, just Dynamis, just banish it. Like Mech Knights, just Dynamis, just banish. I mean, not really. You can't really do that against purple because you can just tag out. But so I guess like maybe the Mech Knight is a little bit harder, but their consistency is so low. So I think that it's like fine. I think that like, ABC is fine. You can just compulse like, to like out the Buster, but obviously they just chain. But you can still like strike and like Solemn Judgment if you're going first. So I think that's going to be insane. Striker, same stuff. Strike the summon. Like striking Candina is pretty cool. You can also hit hit the field spell with Olanoides. That's like insane. Lost World Dinos, you can pretty much do the same as well. I think that it comfortably can beat about everything in Rogue. So I think it also has an insane matchup against Crusadia. I think it can beat Crusadia, and I think it can beat Shadal's. I think that it can beat pretty much everything up until it hits maybe Blue Eyes or Trap Tricks, and that's kind of like the rough spot. So I'm going to go ahead and stick it right here in tier 2. I think that this deck actually has a lot of potential. If I play it, I bet you I can probably make a variant that could do pretty well in this format. But yeah. We're going to go with Unchained next. So we went, Sarama got hit 2-1, and so did their Searcher, which I guess is a pretty big buffed, or like, hit to the deck. So I'm going to go ahead and actually put this in tier 2 because of those hits. I think that it would fall somewhere probably, I don't know. I'm going to guess probably about right here. Maybe it'll lose to Dark Magician depending on the variant. I think that it can go probably about right here just because of the hits. If the hits didn't exist, I'd probably put it in tier 1. Next we have Volcanics. So Raigeki the deck pretty much. We're going to go ahead and plop this into Rogue. I think maybe going about like right here is fine. Just because like it can play a lot of stuff that can out a lot of these cards. So I think about right there is fine. Next we have Zodiac. So we lost Mega Collapse 2 banlists ago, but other than that, the deck hasn't really had any hits. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put this in tier 2 somewhere. As for where, I'm not exactly too sure. I think just Mega Collapse is the main hit. So I think we're actually going to go ahead and put it about right here. And I think that's about it. I mean, some of these, it's a little bit hard to determine exactly where everything goes on this ban list, or on this like tier list, sorry, not the ban list. But I think this is about what I want it to be. This is about as comfortable as I feel with this. Obviously, there might be a couple changes I want to make, but I think that this is a very solid tier list for the non-meta ban list or non-meta tournament number 4. So if you enjoy, go ahead and play one of these decks in the tournament and prove me wrong. Obviously, you can get one of these rogue decks, top with it, and then tell me I'm dumb or something like that. But without any further ado, that's going to do it for this video. And if you guys enjoyed, go ahead and drop a like and let me know what your thoughts are on the tier list for this format.